What's up, everybody? Maya was not in court today, but the lawyers were. They were talking through jury instructions, and then they got back on the subject about whether or not Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital has a systemic problem that puts people and patients in immediate jeopardy because of their programs and actions and oversight for the health and safety and well-being of the people in their hospital during the relevant time period while Maya was there. And there was a discussion, a little heated. And of course, Johns Hopkins doesn't know anything. They're like, we don't know. We got to find all these answers. Yet we've read reports. The plaintiffs are citing reports, and the plaintiffs' attorneys seem to know a lot more than the defense attorneys about what was going on there and when. So let's listen to this discussion, listen to what the judge thinks, listen to what the judge feels. And the judge is as clear as possible. He wants them to turn over everything that could absolutely be even potentially relevant or potentially lead to discoverable material, as we like to say in the law. He says, turn it over. I don't want to have any problems or quibble about my instruction or any language issues with this discussion. Hit that like button if you're following the Maya case, and let's take a listen to the discussion together.
I mean, here is, and I want to be very clear about this.
Okay.
I am interpreting my instruction to turn over stuff very broadly.
Okay.
Very, very broadly.
Okay.
If there is a scintilla of odor, it needs to be turned over.
Okay.
And when I say scintilla of odor, anything having to do with the run up to this report, all self-reports, any prior surveys by the Joint Commission / CMS, because I heard that Mr. Hunter said yesterday, well, there was a prior triannual survey that we passed with flying colors.
You want that? How far back do you want to go, Judge? Because
Well, let me ask this, and maybe you don't know this.
I might not.
Did anyone lose their job over this issue? Like, is this when the hospital president
My understanding
no longer
is
became hospital
because
president?
of the heart issue that there was some. Yes, I vaguely understand. Keep that with a grain of salt. I vaguely understand that as a result of the heart issue, there was a cleaning of house, so to speak.
Well,
A lot of people lost their jobs, not just the president. And we're going to get into that.
yesterday,
And the defense keeps saying because of the heart issues, because of the Heart Institute issues, Heart Institute, meaning not this case, nothing relevant to this case, don't connect it to this case.
Mr. Whitney said that the documents say that it was not confined to the Heart Institute and that it was systemic. Now, obviously, I'm not in a fact-finding position at this moment, but
Yeah.
I need to at least assume the possibility that the reports are going to show more systemic than just heart-related. I mean, that's, I think, what the plaintiffs are telling me that the media accounts are. That it,
And we read some of those media accounts yesterday. They absolutely say it's broader than just the Heart Institute.
And that's the allegation, Judge.
okay, so knowing that I'm not making a final. Wells, you wanted to talk
Yeah.
about something?
Mr. Whitney,
What just happened? That's my bad. I don't know what I just did.
Became hospital possibility that the reports are going to show more systemic than just heart related. I mean, that's, I think, what the plaintiffs are telling me that the media accounts are.
I understand that's the allegation, Judge.
Okay, so knowing that I'm not making a finding of fact, but it sounds like there's an allegation, and perhaps the media also have made statements that it's not just the heart. I don't know.
Just saying.
This thing just kind of got dropped on me yesterday.
And all of this,
But-
these events are taking place after the events in this lawsuit.
Well,
okay?
I'm about ready to get there.
Okay.
Because it does sound like the chief executive lost his or her job over this.
I believe that's accurate.
And so when did this chief executive start being the chief executive? Is this when,
Start being the chief executive?
yeah, is this when Johns Hopkins took over All Children's Hospital?
I don't know the answers to these, but I'll take the notes.
Because if we're talking about something that is systemic,
It's very convenient for defense lawyers when they send people that don't know all the answers to the stuff they knew the judge wanted to discuss. But don't worry, the plaintiff's lawyers, they've got answers.
something that becomes pervasive and systemic doesn't happen just overnight. It's a culture that is created. And so is it when this president came in, is it when Johns Hopkins took over the All Children's Hospital? Is that when the systemic problem started?
Judge, my understanding is that I forget the acronym of the organization, that
Joint Commission?
thank you, Joint Commission, that the Joint Commission report, I mean, they're looking for the documents, but that the Joint Commission report that was done in 2018, that they passed. And it was after that that the hospital self-reported the issues with the heart stuff.
Well, let me ask you this. Was there media accounts that predated the hospital's self-report?
I don't know the answer to that.
The answer is yes. There was a lot of pressure that predated the hospital's self-reports, as far as I understand it from the articles that I've read. Okay, a lot of this is coming from articles, Tampa Bay Times, things like that. Is that they report problems and talk about problems, and even one of the reports said that a lot of regulators had missed complaints in the past. So there is stuff that comes out obviously before the self-reporting, which basically happens on just about all self-reporting, but you can still call it self-reporting when you call and report something on yourself.
Meaning, in other words, did the media bring this to the attention and then the hospital self-reported?
I don't know the answer to that.
But in my mind, if this is an issue of systemic hospital problems, and again, I don't know, I haven't seen any of the reports, and all I'm going on is what I'm hearing in court. But if there is a systemic problem, if this president lost his or her job because of this issue, I kind of want to know when that president became the president. Because if we're talking about a creating of a culture, the inquiry, does the creation, or does it start with that president? I don't know.
I don't know, Judge. I think that this is sort of going off the rails a little bit. I mean, the issue in this court for this jury is about whether or not, as I understand it, when the testimony was given, that this hospital passed the, I'm sorry, the name keeps escaping me.
Joint Commission.
Thank you.
It's not what he said. He went way further than that to say that they were so great and exceeded or met all expectations, things like that.
Write it down. When this hospital, when there was testimony that they were accredited by the Joint Commission. And then there was an issue raised by the plaintiff, but that ain't true. They in fact are on this double secret probation or whatever. And so that's what started this, Judge. And so now it's become a deep dive into years and years of this hospital.
Well,
and so if the Joint Commission,
I think what started is when the defense presented evidence before this jury that says that the Joint Commission had blessed Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, giving what possibly is a very false impression.
well, Judge, so that's,
And not just the Joint Commission,
that's-
also federal agencies.
so that's the issue. So if in fact the Joint Commission in
So
2018,
you heard that,
Also
right?
giving before this jury,
the Joint Commission,
The problem.
I think what started is when the defense presented evidence before this jury that says that the Joint Commission had blessed
Well-
Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital, giving what possibly is a very false impression.
well, Judge,
That's why the judge is mad. The judge just wants us to be a fair trial, the truth to come out, presented to the jury, and let the chips fall where they may. He does not want any false information or information that's colored one way or another that is going to mislead the jury to come out in court and have an effect on the outcome.
so that's
And not just the Joint Commission,
that's-
also federal agencies.
So that's the issue. So if in fact the Joint Commission in 2018, which would go back over the years that are involved here, passed the hospital, and then it was only after that that this issue came up with the heart stuff, then we were in fact accredited in 2016, 2017, when this is the thing. So to go back and deep dive into the whole hospital
Good.
seems a little extreme for the issue that this is addressing.
Well, I just fundamentally.
I can answer a couple of the courts.
Okay.
I feel very strongly at this point that a deep dive is not only necessary, but is required, and I'm directing it.
Okay, so I don't,
It has to happen immediately.
I understand. I'm just not clear what the court is asking for with respect to time frame and also what documents.
Well, again, I'm asking when did this president become president? I don't know the answer to that. But if we're talking about something systemic that was a culture that was pervasive through the hospital, then I need to know how long senior leadership was involved. Because if we're talking about the creation of culture, it generally starts from the top down. Now, sometimes it's bottom up, but that seems to be something that I need to know.
But isn't the first threshold question, was it systemic? Before we have to dive deep 20 years or however many years this guy was president?
Well,
Isn't
how am I
that
going
the
to make
first
that
question?
determination?
I think the reports would make that determination and the deposition on Friday.
And
You're-
I don't have.
Wait, I just want to make this clear. I do believe her that she doesn't know any of these answers. I think that's strategic that they send her, and Howard Hunter's not here and she doesn't know any of the answers. But again, it hasn't been 20 years. We're not talking about 20 years. And luckily the plaintiff's lawyer has some information for us.
Have any more hearing time between now and when we walk in on Monday.
Well, I feel like I can't address the court's concern. I do not have the knowledge as to when
I
this
can.
guy became president.
Okay,
I can't.
Mr. Whitney, when did this person? Who are we talking about first? Who's the president?
Jonathan Ellen. He was brought down from Baltimore after the acquisition.
When was
He
the acquisition?
The acquisition,
2011.
I believe, was 2011. I might be wrong on the date.
It's 2011.
Okay, so when Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital took over All Children's Hospital, the fellow who lost his job became the chief of All Children's Hospital. Is that what you're telling me, Mr. Whitney?
Yes, Your Honor, except I can't represent that he immediately became the president at Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital upon the acquisition. I can only represent that between the time the hospital was acquired by Johns Hopkins and the time that Maya Kowalski was a patient there, he had become the president and was the president during the relevant admission.
So I can find that out, Judge. obviously,
So
when
why don't
he
we do
became
this?
president.
Whenever that person became president,
2012. 2012.
that's the date range.
And you're looking for the Joint Committee.
Makes sense, right? The president, systemic problems, program problems, health and safety at risk for the patients, findings, losses of jobs, cleaning house. Let's at least go back to 2012, which again is in the relevant time period that he was president while Maya was there. Let's get that information and see what we can find, since the defense, in fact, opened the door.
Mission reports from that
And,
day
and the
forward.
federal agencies, however they interact with each other.
Okay, I'm not trying to be difficult. That's kind of vague, but I'll report it.
I'm doing the best I can. Again,
Understand.
I am going to take a very broad view of discovery. So if there's any hint that it might be relevant to this concept, it needs to be turned over. I am going to look on very disfavorably if I come in on Monday morning and I get I didn't get this report from 2017 because I didn't use the proper language in my discussions. Because
I'm hearing the court, Judge, and I'll.
That means if it's a maybe, it's a yes. Turn it over. If you think maybe I should turn it over, maybe this could be relevant, it's a yes. Don't try to find reasons that it's not relevant. It's really sad that he has to say this, because this is how lawyers work a lot in discovery. They do everything to find a reason that something is not relevant or not discoverable, versus the other way around to make this a fair battle. So he says, if it's even questionable, turn it over. I'm going to look very disfavorably on anybody that tries to say, well, this 2017 document didn't have the right language.
I'll do my best to articulate this as described.
Your Honor, if I can inquire, only because I kind of missed how this became a thing in this trial.
The other defense attorney is like, hey, I missed how this became relevant, Judge.
Does this relate to the punitive damages for false imprisonment and battery? Does it relate to the negligent training? I'm not quite sure I understand why we're doing this. That's all. I just don't know what issue it triggered all of this. I just trying to figure out.
well, what triggered all this is the defense presenting an impression in front of the jury that the Joint Commission has blessed All Children's or Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital and basically said everything was fine. And that possibly is either a correct statement or a materially false statement.
What triggered it is the defense said something that could be a materially false statement. And we don't like for juries to be told materially false statements in court under oath.
Very materially false statements.
It could be
I understand
very
the court's
materially false.
directives.
Anything else on this issue, or can I?
As long as we have some date certain, time certain today by which we would know something.
Well, I don't know what that means. I think
We've got
that
a deposition tomorrow, right?
I would say that the court's comments have expanded the materials that we thought we were producing. So I need to get that information.
So you already knew Johns Hopkins was doing everything they could to limit the materials they were going to turn over. Now the judge is like, no. I'm expanding that. Turn over everything. Give them everything that could possibly be relevant. And then they could take this deposition tomorrow. I promise you, Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital is not happy about how this is going. There are some very angry people right now because this door was opened and all this information that was not going to come in, that was not relevant, that the judge had already kept out, that the plaintiffs were not trying to get in until this witness opened the door. And now the plaintiffs are trying to drive a truck through it, get all the information to make the hospital look as bad as they can. And a lot of this did have to do with the Heart Institute. A lot of it did. But if it's wide ranging and wide sweeping, well, now it could have just become relevant in this very big, very high profile, all eyes on this. This is not good for Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital. They have gone through a lot of negative press over the last 10 years. And this is just another hit that continues to keep on coming for them. And they are not going to be happy about how this is going right now.
I'm not sure I expanded it. I just was.
Well, we went back in time.
Enforcing it.
So
Judge is like, no, I didn't expand it. We didn't go back in time. I said all relevant time periods. Now I'm just defining what all relevant time periods are so that you don't argue that a very relevant time period is not in fact relevant. That's all he did. The defense is like, oh, we were only going to give him 6 months of documents. The judge is like, but why? More than 6 months is relevant. It's relevant all the way up until since this guy started. Duh, that's obviously the relevant period. It's very interesting because you're hearing real time how lawyers make certain arguments that judges are just like, obviously that's not within the relevant time period. It's more expansive than that.
Time to go through these documents before we depose them.
I've said what I'm going to say on it. It's an expansive, given the position we find ourselves in and how this came up. So let's talk about how Monday morning is going to shake out.
Yes, sir.
Because I also, am I getting a motion to disqualify one juror or two jurors or three jurors? One juror. And that's
You might as well listen to this.
yes,
I want to first, when we walk in, I want to first address the imminent jeopardy finding issue.
Okay.
That's going to be the first thing.
First thing
we're going
Monday
to do.
morning.
And any sort of follow-up my hope is that if there's any further testimony that has to be done, the plaintiffs are ready to bring it. So we can end this case, a few minutes after we bring the jury in. The second issue I think we need to address will be the juror issue.
Yes.
And whether we do that before or after the jury, I don't know. It just depends on how long it takes us to deal with the first issue.
Understood.
And then the next issue after that would be if there was any sort of remaining jury instruction issue, we probably have to address that issue as well. My hope is we won't have anything at that point.
All right. So we're going to deal with the juror disqualification. I think it's based on jury questions or something people were telling me, but I really wanted to hear the judge tell the defense exactly what they have to turn over, which is basically everything that could even have a slight sniff of an odor that it might be relevant. So we'll see. They're going to turn that over. Then the plaintiffs get to depose to a corporate rep type depot for Johns Hopkins All Children's Hospital to find out how permeating, widespread, and systemic these issues were that put people in immediate jeopardy, safety and health risks for patients that could directly affect Maya and affect this case and affect how the jury looks at it and affect the damages amount. This is huge stuff that was not expected to come in during this trial. I can almost guarantee you neither side thought this stuff was coming in. That's what makes it so wild. Thanks for joining me. Let me know what you think in the chat. Hit that like button on the way out. Thanks for watching another episode of The Lawyer You Know. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the thumbs up and share with your friends who might be interested here on YouTube. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. You can also follow us on all social media, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, at Lawyer You Know. But on Instagram, we are still at Tragos Law. So look us up on there. And don't forget to listen to the Lawyer You Know podcast, available on all major podcast platforms. If you have a case you want to talk to us about, if it's a personal injury case, wrongful death, catastrophic injury, car accident, or slip and fall case, please email us lawyeryouknow@gmail.com. Of course, all of these links I just mentioned are included in the description below on this episode and every episode. So until next time, this is Peter Tragos, the Lawyer You Know.